ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about.
Why you always lying? Why you always lying? That's one of the more annoying viral songs to have been released in the last several years. It's also exactly how the NCAA feels towards Jim Harbaugh right about now. In case you haven't been paying attention, Jim Harbaugh, the fiasco that is blowing up right now in Ann Arbor, let's catch you up, okay? In January of 2022, right after getting mollywopped by the University of Georgia, we find out that Jim Harbaugh was in some trouble for kind of lying to the NCAA about some recruiting violations. It was announced that a level 1 violation would be deemed worthy of punishment. That was the news coming out in January. And then about, I'd say 3 or 4 weeks ago, we found out that the NCAA and Jim Harbaugh had agreed to a 4-game suspension for this season, right? A lot of jokes made about Michigan's opening 4 games of the schedule. Ooh, tough missed home game against Rutgers, my boy. Anyways, a lot of jokes about that. But what we learned upon talking about this news, okay, when it first came out, this 4-game suspension, was that there was something called the NCAA Punishments Committee. Never had heard of it before myself, after having studied and loved and learned and observed college football for the last 20 years. Something that I didn't know about, some punishments committee. But apparently, okay, the original 4-game suspension was just a suggestion, essentially, that they were promoting or giving to the NCAA's punishment committee. And this agreement, if you will, got leaked to the media and Ross Dellinger. And the next thing you know, Yahoo Sports is out here breaking news that Jim Harbaugh and the NCAA had agreed upon this 4-game suspension that is now apparently a mythical mention or a suspension. And when things get leaked, particularly stories like this, I always wonder, first thing I ask is like, hey, who does this benefit, right? Who will this ultimately benefit with regards to this leaked information? Why is this getting out, essentially, right? Talk about finding the why on this network all the time. I always learn when asking that question, hey, who would benefit? Why is this out? I always learn where it ultimately comes from, right? And this original leaking of this 4-game suspension, this must have come from the NCAA. This was their chance to kind of gauge the reaction of this 4-game suspension, knowing that the actual ruling is a 6-game suspension for a level 1 violation, such as lying to the NCAA about any type of anything. If you lie to the NCAA while being interrogated or while being investigated, you're going to get slapped with a level 1 6-game suspension. So just a few weeks later, after we find out about this punishment committee, right, we found out that the punishment committee has rejected this self-imposed 4-game suspension. That's what we found out today, right? And ultimately, based off this rejection of the suspension, I can promise you right now the NCAA is not exactly happy with the way people responded to the initial leak of this information. Okay, how do I know that? How do I know that they weren't exactly happy with this mythical suspension? Well, for the first time ever, I heard the NCAA come out today and release a statement about a suspension. Never have I ever. Not a personal statement, not like this. If I were a Michigan fan today, I would give you the right to feel like you're being attacked, because you kind of are. Listen to this, because the NCAA actually, again, put their name on something. The vice president of the NCAA said what I'm fitting to tell you in a publicly released statement. They put their name on this. Ready? The Michigan infractions case is related to impermissible on and off-campus recruiting during the COVID-19 dead period and impermissible coaching activities. Quote, not a cheeseburger. The NCAA Vice President Derek Crawford said, quote, the COI, which is the committee, right, in the punishment committee, the COI may also reject a negotiated resolution if it determines that the agreement is not in the best interest of the associations or the penalties are not reasonable. Quote, not a cheeseburger. That was in the NCAA release today. And do you know why? The NCAA vice president put, quote, not a cheeseburger. This is not about a cheeseburger. He put that in his release today because very clearly the NCAA is out here reading how fans respond, message boards respond to their punishments, because that's all it was. Michigan fans were out here talking about the NCAA is a fraud, a joke, a bunch of clown acts. And honestly, they piss me off. Okay, they do, because they're out here suspending my football coach over a daggum cheeseburger that he gave to a recruit. All right, so much so. They were out here throwing that out, so much so that the NCAA's vice president took offense to it and again put it in his statement. A statement, by the way, that is not really allowed to be had because the levying of the punishment hasn't actually, the conclusion of the investigation has not happened. Michigan's head coach, Jim Harbaugh, is not allowed to legally talk about this, but the vice president's out here allowed to take shots at message board fans and message board warriors. It's absurd. It makes really no sense to me. But I will tell you this right now. Jim Harbaugh ain't getting no 4-game suspension. Jim Harbaugh's probably going to get more than that, right? Duh. All right, and what I will also tell you is that this ain't happening this year. This idea of this 4-game suspension not being accepted, this basically means the most talented Michigan football team to ever exist, by the words of Jim Harbaugh, has to go through the 2023 season with this overhanging their head. So let me ask you this question, boys. Michigan wins a national title this year. Their head coach, a year from now, has to get recalled on 4 games that they took part in this year. What happens?
Goes to the NFL.
He's going to the NFL. He's been flirting with the NFL for so long. I think this would be the final straw where it's just like, you know what, why am I dealing with this? I can go to the NFL, make more money, not have to recruit year round, and not have to deal with the NCAA up my ass.
This would all make sense to me too. The reason why Harbaugh would come out here and say all these things about I have the most talented team. I'm about to put the most talent in the NFL. I'm about to blow Georgia's record out of the water this year because I have that much talent on my team, and we should win a national title. Because he knows he can say all of that, and if it doesn't pan out at Michigan, he's like, well, I won't be there next year anyways because I'm going to go to the NFL. So it's basically he's giving himself a safety blanket for everything that is happening and everything that he's saying.
You also have a scapegoat in saying, well, we didn't win this year because we had all this NCAA bullshit to deal with. Whereas even if you do win, now it's we won in spite of everything that was going on. We had the most talented team. So, I mean, I kind of see – I think that's kind of his play where he's planning on going to the NFL. And I wouldn't say that if he hadn't flirted with doing it every year he's been at Michigan.
It's funny because, like, he looks and feels like an NFL football coach, but he's a maniac. He's a maniac. And he's a guy that likes it his way. And that's kind of why him and the 49ers ownership's kind of a shit show anyways, to be honest with you. But it's kind of why they had some disagreements. Because he's Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh is not very easy to deal with on a day-to-day basis. He's kind of unique. He's kind of eclectic. He's kind of a mad scientist, honestly. Like, I think sometimes my Jim Harbaugh opinions get misconstrued. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the football coach that is Jim Harbaugh. I also think Jim Harbaugh has a tremendous amount of respect for the coach that is Jim Harbaugh. You know what I mean? And sometimes that confidence in ourselves as coaches gets us in trouble. Like, basically, I don't think he lied to the NCAA. He might have been caught in a lie, but his lying was a byproduct of him thinking that they are a joke. That's all it is. Like, if you listen to his comments and if you listen to the way the fan base has responded to this, they think the NCAA ain't shit. And that's why they did what they did. That's why the coaching staff did what they did.
I feel like most people have that opinion by now about the NCAA. Like, y'all ain't, like, anything y'all do and say just really doesn't matter to us because it's like you guys continue to show that you don't really have much of a backbone. Like all the stuff that they get involved with is just like everybody's against the NCAA. Like if there's a collective opinion that almost every single college football fan shares is that they don't respect the NCAA as an organization.
I do wonder why the NCAA is kind of cherry picking this scenario because I feel like you could, if you really wanted to do a deep investigation, you would find things like this in most football programs.
I think what also, if we did a deep dive into this specific investigation, I think you would find that there's something that Harbaugh did that like brutally pissed off these decision makers at the college football, brain trust, if you will. Because again, this hasn't happened. The vice president coming out and releasing a statement on social media and putting, quote, not a cheeseburger in there. Listen to that. The Michigan infractions case is related to impermissible on and off campus recruiting during the COVID-19 dead period and impermissible coaching activities. Not a cheeseburger. Like, bro, they're not happy. They're not happy at all. And I think the reason being is, like I said, I think he must have said something to piss them off. Where he's like, you guys ain't fucking shit anyways. In the middle of the meeting, it had to be something like that, right?
Yeah, I would think so. When you had texted us that quote, I was like, "Why not a cheeseburger? Where the heck is that coming from?" Like, it was just like almost so random in their statement. It's this whole process of just kind of following it of how it's like Jim Harbaugh will get a 4-game suspension this year, and then Michigan's going to appeal the 4-game suspension, and now you have the NCAA coming out, and it's like, psych, we lied. None of that is happening, and now we're actually going to tell you how we really feel now that we know how you feel, and we're going to do something completely different.
I just can't wait to see the college game day signs. They're going to be so good this year. Jim, not a cheeseburger Harbaugh. That's his new nickname. Not a cheeseburger Harbaugh.
Cheeseburger Jimmy?
No, just
Jim,
Jim, not a cheeseburger Harbaugh. That's it. That's how we have to refer to him the rest of the show.
I don't really – I think this is the last hoopla that the NCAA is going to make. I know we keep saying that, but like eventually they're going to cease to exist, right, because of this reason. No one really holds respect for him. But my other takeaway from this is that particularly fan bases listening to this, whoever you root for, shut up. Just shut up. If the NCAA ever comes around, just shut up. Don't talk. Don't be bitching. Don't be complaining, because apparently they're reading about it. Apparently they're reading that you thought this was all about a cheeseburger, and they wanted to let everybody know this ain't about no cheeseburger. This is about him lying during what he was doing during the dead periods where he wasn't supposed to be talking to nobody because COVID was a muck.
It's bigger than a cheeseburger.
It just means more down here. Hey, welcome into tonight's show. Hope you're enjoying it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, rate, review, all that good stuff. Hey, I'm going to be honest. This is a new venture, right? This national content idea. We see the numbers, guys. We know the Georgia fans show up for that first hour in droves, and then y'all kind of trickle off, if you will. I'm okay with this being a new mission that we're going to achieve, and we're going to continue to knock at the doorsteps of. We talked about it a little bit yesterday about how failure is necessary, right? Failure is required. We're failing right now with regards to having a massive audience, but it's brand new. So for those of you who have been listening to us on this national mission, if you will, this national conquest, hey, I'm extremely thankful for you, and you're going to be day ones on this thing. And I think there's a special place in our original community, our Georgia community, for day ones, right? Day one, sitting right here on the desk, right? Day one, right here on the desk. Not a day one, but that's all right.
It's all good.
It's all good. Like a day 450 right here. Just got into the Discord over there.
Yeah, but I mean, look at me. Look at me now.
Look at me now. Look at us.
That was like 3 weeks ago.
I mean, I had Discord for a while, but I wasn't active on it. So
yeah.
My bad, everyone.
That's all good. But we got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about Eli Drinkwitz's watch party. We're going to talk about them cargo pants, most importantly. We got a player of the day for you guys. There's some new unis out. I know everyone loves uniforms talk. A lot of dark, all black uniforms on the themes here tonight. Excited to show you those. Going to talk about some hot seats in college football as well. But I want to take a quick shout out because I didn't do it in the first hour. Failure on the producers. Shouts out to Prize Picks, okay? 100% deposit match today over on prizepicks.com if you use promo code Brooks. All right, so here's how this works. You go over, you sign up, prizepicks.com, you use promo code Brooks, you put $100 in, they're going to deposit match right now today. Give you a free $100 right there on the spot. Now, I ain't going to lie to you. We're 0-3 here on this network. That's all good. We're a long game, all right? We're a long game on this network. And we're going to take Prize Picks for everything they're worth this year on this network, and that's a promise. So prizepicks.com, promo code Brooks today, 100% deposit match. Now, where do we want to start, boys? Do we want to start with, and I hate to do it to the man because I like him. Am I the only national correspondent that's out here standing on the drink bandwagon?
I think you're the biggest proponent of it. I don't know if you're the only one standing. You're probably the most loud and boisterous about it.
That Eli Drinkwitz is a guy that I would play for? I'm the only one out here doing it?
I mean, I don't think a lot of media members say, like, oh, I would play for this coach or I would play for him like you
right.
would. But
that's kind of my thing.
But, I mean.
But not a lot of drink love.
No, not as much.
Okay, well, I got all the drink love until I saw what I saw today. Play the clip. So much fun. Bro, them cargo pants are down to his mid-shin.
And he has the Crocs on top of that. He's got the camo Crocs to go with it.
He's got camo Crocs.
You didn't catch that?
No, I didn't.
You need me to play it again?
No, I don't. I don't need to see that twice.
He's got the camo Crocs to go with it.
I feel so hurt I feel so hurt that a football coach that is so hip and so young and such a good speaker, and man, he makes you just want to vibe. And he's out here wearing camo cargo pants with the pockets, dog, with the pockets. Okay, and they look cut off. Were they cut off? They were frayed at the bottom.
He's holding a baseball
bat. And he's holding a baseball bat.
You know what? Fuck it. Let's watch it one more time.
All right.
I gotta see it one more time. All right. First of all, if we're gonna wear a hat all day, if we're gonna wear a visor all day, let's spruce it up. Let's do something before we stage a video about a high school kid committing to our program and subtweeting it. Y'all notice this? Subtweeting is a thing now. People subtweet these things. Auburn did this with Joe Phillips. Missouri's doing this now with Williams Nwaneri, where you're not allowed to talk about high school kids until they sign. But if we subtweet them and everybody knows what we're talking about, it's okay. Like, that's weird.
Yeah, it is really weird. Then the weirdest part to me about the whole video is, yeah, definitely the outfit itself, but the bear hugging the man, wrapping your legs.
Wrapped his leg. He went for the foot. He would have clipped the heels if he didn't catch himself.
That's the type of thing that, like, when you don't see your girlfriend for a while, like she comes to see you for the first time, like you might get one of those from her. But a grown man to grown man over a high school athlete, that's a little weird, man. I'm not with that.
This reminds me of the video of when the Minnesota Timberwolves clinched the playoff spot and they celebrated.
And Pat Bev's crying.
Yeah, and they're crying. They celebrate like they won the damn NBA Finals. You got a 5-star. He hasn't even signed yet, and y'all are throwing this. Not that he won't.
He kind of has.
Not that he won't.
No, he kind of has.
With what?
With the new NIL law.
I mean, yeah, but
he is starting his FAFSA work tomorrow, and he's starting to get NIL checks immediately.
Okay.
So he kind of has.
Regardless.
Yeah.
You would think they just won the damn national championship.
Other question. Why in the hell is he holding a baseball bat?
I know. I have no idea.
It's maroon, too. It's not even like a Mizzou bat that they would take photos with on visits.
Yeah.
So weird.
I don't know.
They went to the store and blew up balloons. Missouri jersey balloons and put them in the damn.
Yeah, like they put a lot of effort into this. You know, I was trying to think of the last college that kind of did like one of these reaction videos to like getting a recruit, and the only one I could think of was when Ole Miss got Robert Nkemdiche, and they were like all sitting in the office and they videoed themselves reacting to getting him. But that was a minute ago. That was a while ago. But this one, I mean, they clearly had the camera set up. They had the helmets symmetrical to one another, the pom-poms, the baseball bats, and then, oh, man.
It was a full-on production.
Y'all know that Andy Elliott guy on Instagram that's always like, you can't work for me if you don't have a six-pack? Andy Elliott could not coach college football. When I see videos like that, all I think about is how bad the profession is for your health. Not a lot of healthy-looking people in that video. We don't have to show it again, and I'm not the skinniest and most fit person in this world. Don't get me wrong. You'll never see me shirtless on this video, on this program. All right, you won't see me in skin-tight clothing either. But yeah, college football coaching, not the best profession if you want to be one of the most healthy individuals in the world. So yeah, no, that was weird, man. And
I honestly want a screenshot of like that action picture and make that like a Renaissance painting.
Yeah,
it's art.
Of him with his legs wrapped around his
DC? Legs wrapped around, pom poms in the air, the baseball bats flying through the air for whatever. I still can't understand.
And on the top,
bat.
it should say 7-5 extended until 2028.
Yeah, that's exactly like yes, it's a program changing recruit, but it's one guy.
Yeah,
like you have yet to win a football game yet.
Well, how do you think Williams Nwaneri felt after saying that?
Apparently not very happy. Saw the internet talking about this a lot. Didn't smile at all in his commitment videos. Nothing. Very Jordan Birch vibes.
Interesting.
From the whole entire process. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I don't know the kid, but it looked very, very much so a team decision, not the kid's decision. You know what I mean? And that's okay. We're in an environment now in college football where it is a team decision because. And when I say team, I mean the people around the athlete because copious amounts of money is involved.
Does Eli Drinkwitz have kids?
I think I've heard him talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think he reacts this way at any of his kids' events? And if he doesn't, what do you think his kids are feeling right now?
That's a great question. And it's one that I'm going to have to think about. Because I know, me personally, I go ape shit watching football. Like, even on teams I don't care about. I don't know if I'm going to be the dad that goes ape shit because I don't want to make a scene.
Yeah. But imagine,
I'd be prone to make a scene.
But, like, if you're, like, his son or daughter, and it's like, why don't you do that for me, Dad? What the heck?
I got an A+ last week, Pops.
Son hits a home run.
Why don't you jump on me and wrap your legs?
Son hits a home run and he's out there straddling the foul pole.
Maybe that's his son's bat.
Hey, good call.
I don't know. That's a pretty big wooden bat. I don't know how old his kids are, of course, but I'm assuming they're not that old.
Eli Drinkwitz, if you watch this, explain the bat, please.
I don't think Eli Drinkwitz is one of the 65 people watching tonight, but if he was, that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Shouts out.
He probably isn't watching anymore though.
No, he's probably cut it off the moment we started making fun of his cargo shorts. It's 2023. That's the real question. Who around Eli Drinkwitz loves that man? Why don't y'all care about him enough to tell him we are not wearing cargo camos no more, dude?
Bro,
Get out of it.
He's got to put the play scripts in.
Fucking hey. Bro, no way he's coaching in those.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Bro, he coaching in the cargos? That's crazy. Got a loaded show. All right, now we wanted to do this segment about give me three, and we're gonna give him three. All right, we're gonna give him hella three here in a second. But it's really, really hard right now to find hot seats in college football. All right, if you're one of these top coordinators in college football, you think you fitting to get a premier coaching job. I'm here to tell you, there ain't a lot of them gonna be available. And we say this every year where it's like, I don't think that job's going to be available. That guy's in pretty safe, keeping in terms of his job. And then that guy ultimately gets fired because he has a terrible year. But who is on a hot seat right now in college football? If you look around college football, it's really, really hard to find names that are guaranteed on hot seats. There are some names where, hey, the Bunsen burner might be up underneath, getting slid up, and it might be getting warm, but it ain't hot right now. So, boys, we're going to go around the room. I want you to give me three. I want you to give me three names of guys that are on clear, obvious hot seats right now.
You want me to start or you want to go?
I would say mine. I don't see. That's the thing is I can't give you three names that are on obvious hot seats. But in my opinion, when I'm looking back at their track records, kind of the current standpoint of the program, their career, these are guys that I think as you head into the 2023 season and it continues, the seat could get hot by the end of it. My first one might sound a little crazy for this one, but Dave Aranda out in Baylor.
Wow.
So his first season did not go very well. I think he had 2 wins maybe out there during the COVID year. Went 12-2 the next year, but then the next year he went 6-7. So there's a lack of consistency here.
Drastic declines.
Yeah, and so if you don't show signs of rewriting the ship in 2023, I think that seat gets a little hot for you.
Also not a guy with a proven track record.
Yeah.
Right? He was a defensive coordinator for LSU prior to getting that job at Baylor. Has had some staff turnover as well. I think that's a solid suggestion, even though, he has another 7-5 season, he's probably fine. But if he goes, 4-8, watch out now.
No doubt. Ahead. Next one, Mel Tucker. I think the only thing that is saving him right now is this big contract extension that he got. It's a good thing that he did because that first year was great for him, but then years after that, it hasn't been so much. So it's a big year for Mel Tucker out at Michigan State, in my opinion. But even if he does have a letdown year, that contract might save him another season.
Is that the biggest contract finesse we've seen other than Jimbo Fisher?
Oh, man, has to be.
Like, he gave them 1 8-win season, and they were like...
And it was off of, 20 transfers.
Let's go.
Just loaded up your roster with the transfer portal and then get it. What is it, a 10-year extension?
Yeah, it was 10 years.
It was 10 years, $95 million.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically the Jimbo contract.
Yeah.
This is something I don't think we talk about as much. Because we talk about running backs, how running backs kind of lowered the value of contracts by underperforming. Is that going to happen with coaches? Because you got Jimbo Fisher and Dave Aranda and all these guys signing 10-year contracts and underperforming. Do you think that'll happen?
No, because there's a little thing called collusion. All right? There's only 3 agents in this world that represent, I would say, 98% of college football coaches. So, no, they're not going to allow the market to deteriorate. It's no different than quarterbacks in the NFL. The price always goes up. It's always going to go up as long as the TV contracts go up. One thing that will cut into this is if we ever get to a point where revenue splits exist, where college football programs are going to have to start splitting their revenue with their football players. That will obviously cut into what we are able to afford to pay our head coach. But the Mel Tucker finesse is one of the ultimate finesses. You got one more for me?
Good on him. And this will just kind of show you how tough it is to find any coaches out there. Butch Jones, Arkansas State. That's my last one. He is 5-19 over the last 2 years at Arkansas State. So I think by the end of 2023, Butch Jones very well might be on the job market again.
Second time we've talked about Butch Jones on this network. We talked about him when we mentioned Lane Kiffin being the only football coach that's really like failed and failed miserably, and then climbed his way back to sustainability. Butch Jones not going to make it.
No.
Not going to make it.
No, not at all.
Going to get cut down in Arkansas. I'm going to be back being a defensive coordinator somewhere. All right, hey, hold on. Oh. Jay Will, give him 3. What do you got?
All right, so the first one I've got is Tom Allen. He had that great year in 2020 where he's celebrating in the locker room. He was crying. It was beautiful. He has been 6-18 in the last 2 seasons. I think if he doesn't show vast improvement this year, he's going to have – I think he's already on the hot seat, but I don't think if anything improves this year. Now, granted, it is Indiana football. They probably don't care as much as, per se, as an Alabama or an Ohio State would, but I do think 6-18 in 2 seasons is grounds to fire you.
I think what's killing them, and it's not going to be a problem for but another 6 months, is they're in the Big Ten East. They're not one of these slappies that's in the Big Ten West. So they play a brutal schedule every year. Like, every single year, we can look on the schedule and say, all right, they are off rip 0-3. They're going to lose to Ohio State. They're going to lose to Michigan. They're going to lose to Penn State. We can mark those off every single year as a football coach. And guess what? Maryland's no cakewalk year in and year out. Michigan State is certainly not a cakewalk year in, year out. The only team you are consistently better than in the Big Ten East as Indiana is Rutgers. That's it. That's the only. So you basically have 3 non-conferences every year that you know, hey, we should beat these guys, right? We should beat Southeastern Missouri, right? And we should beat Rutgers. Outside of that, we got to bite our mouthpiece and go fight. Like, we got to fight.
Yeah, your goal as an Indiana head coach is we're trying to make bowl games every single year. That's essentially your goal.
I wish Georgia Tech would have applied that method, because Paul Johnson would still be the head coach, and they wouldn't be.
Didn't Paul Johnson retire, though?
Retire or we fire.
Yeah.
Retire or fire, one or the other.
Valid.
The devil that you know kind of deal, right? Like, I think Tom Allen is not only a decent football coach, he's a great man, right? And if you're an Indiana athletic director, your goal is not to win national titles, man. You're never going to compete for one. You're Indiana football. Let's understand what we are. And if we're 4-8 every other year to service a 6-6 every other year, and Tom Allen's our coach, and we love him, and our fans love him, and our players love him, why are we firing that guy?
And you sprinkle in a victory over Penn State, or keep
it
close with Ohio State every now and then.
Just give me something to have hope on every single year, and we can keep you if you're a good human.
It's kind of like the discussion that we have about Sam Pittman, in a sense. Like, Sam Pittman, obviously, maybe a little bit higher expectations than what you have at Indiana, but, like, man, give us a big signature win every now and then. Like, go and beat Texas A&M at a neutral site.
Texas at home.
Yeah, do something like that every now and then, and we're good, dude. Flirt around with making a New Year's Six Bowl, like, and we're fun.
Next hot seat.
So my next hot seat, and I don't know how confident I am in this one. Like you said, it is hard to find him. But I think Mario Cristobal really has to show you something this year. Last year was bad at Miami. 5-7. You can't lose to Duke in Middle Tennessee State.
Bro, they got blitzkrieged by Middle Tennessee State.
Like you just can't do that. Even if it's year one. I think he's probably the least likely to get fired. But if you come out and you're 4-6, I think he might get the axe.
Now, is Gaddis still the offensive coordinator down there? Because if not, he cleaned both coordinators after 1 year.
I don't know 100%, but
I want to say they have new coordinators at both.
That's what I think.
All right, so he shit-canned both of his coordinators in 12 months.
Yeah.
That's not great, Bob. Like, that's not a great start to your regime down there in Miami. Now, the only thing keeping that is contract length, right, and the buyout clauses that are obviously in that contract. And he's a home guy. He's a hometown guy.
Shannon Dawson got hired as an offensive coordinator in February of this year.
Yeah, so he had Evan Gaddis as his offensive coordinator. Remember the offensive coordinator from Michigan that went down there and took that job at Miami. And he had Kevin Steele as his defensive coordinator. And he's fired both of those guys and hired new coordinators in 12 months. That's not a great start to our regime.
No, not a good look. And I think you have to at least beat Texas A&M. Even Texas A&M, well, win against them, I think saves your season. He's got to make some major improvements.
And him doing that to both of his coordinators already tells me that he's feeling the pressure that he's got to start doing something, and that he's like screaming like, I don't know what to do, but maybe just fresh start, get some new people.
Not to mention his primary booster is getting investigated by the SEC. That's not great. And the wrong SEC, by the way.
Yeah, not the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
And I also think he feels pressure because it's his school. It's his job. It'd be the equivalent of a Kirby Smart going and not doing well his first year. So I think he kind of feels that pressure internally. My third guy is Neil Brown at West Virginia. He's been there since 2019. He's 22-25 in that time. And, you know, he had arguably the savior of Georgia football, JT Daniels, there last year and just couldn't do anything with that. So I think he's got to really show some improvement as well this year. He's done.
I think Pat White fucked up every West Virginia coach that's ever going to exist. Pat White and Rich Rod. Like, the idea that West Virginia is supposed to be a 10-win program.
It's kind of like
You said he was 22-25?
Yeah.
Hey, some of us are meant to be 500. I hope y'all understand that. Like, I know this is a national audience, and most people who are national speakers and they try to do what we're doing right now, they like to fluff you up. They like to pump smoke up your ass all day long. Like, bro, I'm here to tell you.
It's kind of what Beamer did at Virginia Tech. Like,
Yeah.
anybody who was going to follow up Beamer at Virginia Tech now, it's
You're
like.
going to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to fail. 8-4, premier season. If we're 8-4 and we're a top 25 program, like, what the hell? Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Like, great.
So, I mean, even though it might not be his fault necessarily, maybe the bar's been set too high for the universities, I do think he has to win this. Go 7-5 at least. Win a bowl game. But
Neil Brown was number one on pretty much everybody's list. Neil Brown's people coming for your job. National media members are coming for your job. You're the first name listed on all these hot seat articles. Hey, Christian Kirby, give him 3. Neil Brown was on my list. Here's one I want to throw at you, and it's not going to happen. So fans of this school listening today, it's not going to happen. But, dude, you hired at Oklahoma a defensive-minded coach. A defensive-minded coach last year that I believe gave up 50 to Tulane at home.
woof.
Not great. All right, not great at all. And, again, I know it's year 2. I know it's really, really early. But you hired a defensive-minded football coach who right now, based off what we saw through 13 games last year, can't coach defense. So that's not great. And I do believe that if you go through another season where they were 7-5 last year, you go through another season where you're 7-5 or 8-4, hell 9-3, okay, and you're getting boat raced at home, you having to win shootouts, like, man, it's not going to be awesome news. You know, it's not going to feel great out there at Oklahoma. It's not going to happen. They're not going to fire that guy. There's way too much money to eat. This is not a program that's got cash to just set on fire, which is exactly what it would be if you fire Brett Venables after year 2. But again, not a great start. And I think one thing that saves Venables is that his defense is complex, right? It is hard to teach new guys a new system like that because there's a lot going on. So year 2 should see some drastic improvement, not only from a personnel standpoint, but an execution standpoint within the game plan. But Brett Venables, not a great start out there at Oklahoma.
I think there's 2 things saving Brett Venables and all SEC coaches on the hot seat. I didn't list any SEC coaches for the fact that I don't think any organization wants to go into 2024 where it's the expanded conference with a first-year head coach. I don't think Oklahoma wants to do it. I don't think Texas wants to do it. I don't think Florida wants to do it. I think they want to at least have a guy in there that has built up the program, no matter how much it's underperforming. I think that's kind of what's saving those guys right now.
Some consistency.
Yeah, I would say so. It's so tough because we talked about Brett Venables before, and we kind of tossed his name around, and I was just like, man, it's difficult because you knew what he was trying to go in there and implement. But when you hire a defensive-minded head coach like that, knowing what Oklahoma has been in the past, you know that that's going to kind of take some time before you maybe start seeing some significant results. Just knowing the state that defense was in while Lincoln Riley was there, basically non-existent, kind of like what's happened with him at USC. So I think him knowing, and hopefully the people around him understanding that we knew this was going to take time, so we're going to keep giving him time until we just obviously can't do that anymore.
So not quite hot yet in Oklahoma, but we can all see signs of it getting a little warm.
Definitely not happy, but I don't know if it's hot is the word I'd use yet.
I think the same thing can be said at Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think right now, if you're looking at Florida, if you know football, you're like, all right, Billy Napier, pretty good football coach, kind of in a shitty hand right now, and it's not getting better, right? I think everybody acts like Graham Mertz has forgotten to play football. but he's not a premier SEC quarterback, and that's hard to go into a football season where we know we got one of the harder schedules in the country and having to go play that at the quarterback position. I think the other thing is they're extremely young. I think you're going to see a very young football team this year because he did what most football coaches in that position would do. He processed the whole roster. Anybody he didn't want, he thought was a cancer, he got rid of. So you're going to see him continue to play a lot of younger guys this year. They're going to be a young football team, and next year they're going to be a young football team at the quarterback position because I think it's all signs and all reasons to believe that DJ Lagway will start game one as a true freshman. That's what they've aimed it for. So I think that alone gives Napier, hey, let's get your guy in here, the guy that you recruited. Let's see how you operate as an offense with him at the helm, and then we'll make an assessment. But if you're going to make an assessment off the 2024 season for Florida, it's not going to look great. That's the toughest schedule I've ever seen in college football.
That's got to be so crushing. The fact that you finally kind of got, not necessarily his dream job, but you finally got a job that you wanted at the Power 5 level in a significant conference at a significant team. And it has nothing to do with the fact that you have necessarily failed, but more so the fact that you have a really tough schedule this year with not an ideal quarterback situation, and then next year you have the toughest schedule in the entire country, and you're going to be playing a freshman quarterback. Like, nothing on you, nothing that you've done, but
this 2024 schedule is an Alabama matchup away from being the hardest football schedule ever created. Like, you couldn't even create this schedule on fucking NCAA. They play They play Miami, Samford, UCF, who, by the way, 2 years from now, UCF ain't going to be no rollover.
Yeah,
folks.
they're going to be good.
Like, they're going to be a Big 12 football program with Gus Malzahn as their head coach. They're going to be good. They're going to be a good football team. Georgia, Florida State, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas. Like, there's not a breather in that whole entire schedule. When you go into a season and we have one guaranteed win, like, I can look at that schedule right now and say they're going to beat Samford in 2024. But I don't know right now, 2 years down the road, if I can guarantee they're going to beat Mississippi State and Zach Arnett. Like, he might have shit together by then. You know what I mean? Like, that is brutal. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily hot, but it's going to get warm after that 2023, after this year and next year. Hey, one name in the chat is just absolutely blowing up right now, and I think it's probably warranted. I don't get the Ryan Day heat. I really don't. I think he's an above average head coach. I think he's an exceptional offensive mind, and those two things alone are Ohio State greatness. Like, if we can produce great offense and we can kind of keep our head above water everywhere else, we're Ohio State. That's what we do. I don't understand. Yeah, he's lost to Michigan 2 years in a row, but he was a field goal away from winning a national title this year, essentially.
Exactly what I was about to say. And I kind of people might take this wrong, and I don't want them to take it this way, but it kind of reminds me of pre-national championship of Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
Like, Michigan is kind of what Georgia had to go through with Alabama. Like,
this is a great analogy.
And so, like, it's just he's been so close multiple times, like you said, a field goal away from a national title game that you would go on and you would have won the national title without a doubt. And so if it's just a matter of, like, the signs are there, everything is there that he is capable of putting together a national title roster. It's just, you just got to wait for it to actually happen. Like, you got to wait for the cards to line for him and the magic to happen, and then it's going to be there, and you'll have no more complaints about Ryan Day.
We can attack that comparison from multiple fronts because what was Kirby's main thing? People would always say, oh, we can't figure out the offense. Mm-hmm. Kirby's got to figure out the offense. They're game managing the quarterback again, yada, yada, yada. They're a run-heavy offense. You can't do that. You can't win that way. Well, a lot of people say the same thing about Ryan Day from a defensive perspective. If you don't figure out the defensive side of the football, you're never going to win. I think he's the Bama and Michigan comparison, perfect, because Michigan's playing a style of football that they're not playing right now, and they can't play. No different than when Georgia was losing to Bama. It was because of quarterback play. Like, you're losing to Bama because you're not scoring enough points, period. You lost 44-28 2 years in a row. You got to score more points. So, yeah, I think it's a great comparison.
My biggest question is, all right, say you do fire Ryan Day. Say he's done. Say he loses to Michigan this year. Who are you going to go out and get that puts your program in a better position than where it is right now?
No one. But that's not how fans think.
They're a top 3 program in the country.
Perennially.
Like you said, they're one kick away from beating the shit out of TCU in the national title. What more do you want? Yeah, you want to be able to win that game. You want to be able to beat your rival Michigan. But it's not like Kirby Smart. It's not like Nick Saban. It's not like Dabo Swinney's growing on trees out here. I don't know who
Was Jim Tressel an outgoing personality? Or Or was he just the guy
No,
that
dude, he wore a sweater vest during games.
I know, and that's what everyone knows about him. But
quiet.
from a stand in front of the microphone, control the room, make people like me standpoint, was he good at that? Because Ryan Day is not. Right, and I think that might be the main problem with Ryan Day. When Ryan Day gets in front of a camera, when Ryan Day talks to the media, he doesn't connote. I don't know how to explain it. He doesn't connote big time CEO, super confident guy. He almost connotes like, I don't want to be here. I just want to talk X's and O's football.
Yeah, it almost seemed like he was more comfortable in the position before he became a head coach of like his time at Ohio State before that happened. He seemed more comfortable in that position and him being just kind of like not necessarily behind the scenes, but in that scenario of I'm not the guy that's when you think of Ohio State football, you think of Ryan Day. So
what I'm about to say, I want everyone to take really, really seriously because it's a serious topic. But when he took the head coaching job at Ohio State, if you remember the College Game Day series that they did on him, he had to go through extensive, we call it therapy for anxiety issues. He got hit with major anxiety, major depression, and something that he had to overcome, and he ultimately did, and he ultimately made it a part of his program. Like now they have, therapists and mental health specialists that are in the program at Ohio State and help with these types of things because their head coach struggled with this. So I think you're 100% right. He was literally was more comfortable as the coordinator, and the change to become a head coach threw some massive anxiety into his life, and he certainly conquered that. But there are some holes in the coaching. I just think it's absurd to say we have a top 3 perennial football team. Let's find a new head coach. Like that to me sounds absurd.
I think fans just have this mindset that, if we get rid of our head coach, every head coach is going to be wanting us. Like they're going to be lining up for us. Like, Nick Saban's going to be coming up here. Kirby Smart's going to be poking his head in the window. Dabo Swinney's going to be wanting to leave Clemson when that's so far from the truth.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Day gets fired. I think he has to go 6-6 to get fired.
So
which is not happening.
6-6. I think that's right. Here's my main takeaway from this. Although if he loses to Michigan, Penn State, and one more team, he's out. I'm telling you that right now. You can't lose 3 games at Ohio State. Where was I going to go with this? Here's what I was going to do. Okay, when I sat down and tasked the boys with this today, I obviously tasked myself with it, and the only real answer I could get, because I don't think Tom Allen needs to be fired at Indiana. I think he's a great human. I think that's what they need. I can only figure one. Neil Brown, you're on a legitimate hot seat. The rest of college football, y'all are cozy. Everything's great. Everything's copacetic. Your athletic directors are happy. They're not firing you anytime soon. No one's on a real hot seat, again, except for Neil Brown. So when I look at that, and I know this is the national hour, but when I look at that, and even from a national perspective, if you got a great coordinator out here in college football, bro, you're good. Ohio State, don't worry about it, okay? Brian Hartline ain't going nowhere. What's up?
I just thought, what about Kirk Ferentz? Because, he's automatically fired if he doesn't.
Is Iowa a big job? Like,
I'm just thinking who could get fired this year at this point. Because, what does he have to do, 25 points per game?
That's the OC. That's just his son. That's not him.
Oh, okay. I thought it was him.
No, that's just him.
Then never mind.
Dude, Kirk Ferentz ain't never getting fired.
Then never mind,
They had remember when his strength and conditioning coordinator got accused of being racist and they had to fire him? Mm-hmm. They hired a panel to figure out what the cultural issues were at Iowa. The panel came back and said, if you want to fix the issue, fire Kirk Ferentz. Do you know what the athletic director did? He dismantled the panel. That's what he did. Kirk Ferentz ain't never getting fired. He'll die the Iowa head coach. Jesus. Come on, dude. Like, they had a panel. They said, your program is racist because your coach might be. Nah, fire the panel. You know what I mean? Like, that's how shit worked out up there. These are not jokes. This is real. Like, this is how it happened in Iowa, bro. So, no, not a hot seat, I don't believe. Offensive coordinator, certainly on a hot seat. But no, when I looked around the landscape of college football and I tried to search and find, like, hey, who are coaches that might be fired this year, we come up with a very, slim pickings list, right? There's no, real Power 5 national powerhouse football program that's got a head coach that's a little iffy. The closest thing we can find is Jimbo Fisher. And guess what? They're not swallowing $85 million for him to go work for the SEC network. That's not what they're doing. All right? So they're not firing him for another couple years until they can actually summon that kind of money. So when I look around, I say, look, there's no great jobs opening. Guess what, Glenn Schumann? You're good. Guess what, Brian Hartline? Y'all good. Y'all not going. Y'all not going nowhere. Y'all don't have a job to run to. There's not a Tennessee opening. There's not a Florida opening. There's not a USC opening. There's not a Texas opening. A&M ain't opening, right? There are not predominant and preeminent college football programs that are out here firing their head coach anytime soon. So I don't necessarily think offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators that you're worried about losing, I don't think they're going to be leaving for any type of college head coaching job. If I were afraid of losing a Glenn Schumann, I'd be terrified of the NFL. I wouldn't be necessarily scared of some college football program because guess what? He's not taking a Troy head coaching job. He's not taking a Northwestern head coaching job. He's going to wait for the head coaching job, wherever that is, at a Power 5 football program that he can actually win at. Not one of these, okay? Not one of these jobs that's going to come available. Glenn Schumann's not going to coach at West Virginia. Do we all agree there?
Yeah, I agree.
Probably
with
not.
All right, so same thing with Brian Hartline. Like, I don't even think Brian Hartline wanted the Northwestern job. Because if he wanted it, he would have taken it by now.
And that's the thing. That's what the fans did, though. As soon as Northwestern had a head coaching job opening, everybody's like, oh, Brian Hartline's going to come be our head coach. Like, they just assumed that he would show interest there.
Yeah, no, it's just not. That's not how these things work. It's not how any of this works. It's all about finding the right job. You think guys like that are going to sit around and be a position coach or a coordinator for 8 to 9 to 10 years to take a stab at Northwestern? No offense, but no. They're taking a stab. They're going to wait for the national title contending football job. No different than the way Steve Sarkisian did at Texas. Like, he waited for the one. After 3 or 4 years of being probed, after getting his shit cleaned up as offensive coordinator, he waited for the job, and he took the Texas job. And he's going to be there, and he's going to make $110 million, and he might win 9 games a season, and people are going to claim Texas is back because it's Texas. Okay? He took the right job. So, yeah, if I sat here today and I had a great coordinator, I'd be cushy. I'd be cushy until somebody at Florida or somebody at Florida State or Miami gets fired, and then, well, we'd have tight blood holes. Great show. Great show to be here tonight. There's also some new unis out, and I really don't know. I really don't know how I feel about all these. I haven't seen all these. You guys got a chance to look at the board. I'm going to walk over there just so we can get a little closer to this action.
Pulled up to where they
Oh, you haven't pulled up? No, that's right. That's right. We're going to put them on the stream tonight. Out here in Billy White Shoes
Streaming
Johnson.
friendly right here.
Stream friendly tonight. Who are we looking at first? Who stole Georgia's idea of wearing black first?
Well, we got Mississippi State right now.
Ooh, those are crispy.
Yeah, I actually dig these a lot.
Very throwback.
Mm-hmm.
I like maroon.
I like it, and what I like about these is, typically when a new uniform comes out, you kind of get afraid of, like, we're going to do too much. Like, I kind of get that vibe from the Atlanta Falcons when they came out with their new uniforms, like the gradient, doing too much. This is just simple, clean Mississippi State brand that looks like Mississippi State.
It honestly looks like they didn't change much.
Yeah.
They changed. You can't see it from that angle. They changed their helmet logo back to the old MSU.
Oh.
We don't have it. Like, if you look it up, it's so crispy.
Okay, dope. Shouts out to the equipment management staff. Keep the main thing, though. All right. If you're a football coach.
Now we're going to get into the black unis. We got Florida.
Let's take a look at
They
Florida.
didn't put a full uniform picture up there, so this is just kind of bits and pieces. Like, you get the idea of what the jersey looks like.
I saw the video they came out with, the little baby video.
Yeah.
We can't play it because all the rights are reserved, but this is way better than whatever the hell they wore a couple. Did they actually wear the
gator skins? Yep.
gator
Yeah,
skins?
Felipe Frank's year, that's when they wore them.
Yep.
So bad.
Black
Did
is.
all footage of that get deleted from the internet?
I would have made sure it did.
It should have. I think black is such a hack. Blackout jerseys are such a hack way to get hype. But god damn it if they don't work every time.
Oh,
every time a team releases a blackout jersey, it's so nice.
I mean, you guys are Georgia fans, and even that god-awful blue and orange looks all right.
Look, I mean,
it
people
looks
are saying this is weird because black isn't one of Florida's colors or whatever, but black works for pretty much everybody, and I think Florida did a good job of making it work here.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But black works for everybody. Just black out everything. Yeah.
Word.
All right, last one, UAB kind of updated all their uniforms. I can make this bigger if I need to. But
Oh. Hey, I've been watching Trent, all of his tweets, because I got a bunch of buddies that are on that coaching staff. I got a bunch of young football players that I liked coming out of the state of Georgia that are on that roster. Have you seen what he tweets out when they get a commit? He calls them. He tweets out #fire breathers only. That's his motto.
That's hard.
Because they're the Blazers, right? And they have that little dragon that breathes fire, so they're only recruiting fire breathers.
It's
Ricky
crazy.
Lee, by the way, corner from Cedar Grove. He's going to start this year as a true freshman. They got a bunch of this where they came into the state of Georgia. By the way, they stacked their roster with a bunch of dudes who know how to recruit the Southeast predominantly. Like every coach, it's funny, every coach that I saw at multiple schools with a lot of juice and a lot of energy, one guy from Mississippi or Middle Tennessee State, one guy from Akron, one guy from Ohio State they hired. 3 or 4 of these guys that I've seen on the trail that I remember when I saw their announcement, like, hey, we've hired so-and-so at UAB, because they had such energy and such juice on the trail and they stuck out like sore thumbs. Well, Trent Dilfer obviously knows how to find these people because, like, every guy that he hired, like Coach Patrick was a defensive analyst from Ohio State, okay? Took him right off the roster. I remember speaking to Coach Patrick on the field before their playoff game against Georgia, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to UAB. Why UAB? They're going to let me be a defensive line coach. Well, turns out he's like one of the, and not turns out, he always has, but he's one of the more influential former high school football coaches in the state of Georgia. So guess who's going to be landing defensive lineman from Atlanta? UAB. And when you see it on Saturdays, it's going to translate, I promise you right now.
It's so insane to me that think that UAB had to shut their program down like 9 years ago.
It wasn't even that long ago.
And now they're
No, it was
I think it was 2014.
I just remember it was Jake Gaines here. That's the connection I always make.
Yeah, that's long. That's a long time
that was
ago.
a while
that's
ago.
2014. But that's insane that they're thriving this much now.
And got a brand new stadium.
Yeah.
Stadium
Brand new
holds
jerseys.
like 60,000
Speaking
people.
of brand new stadium, you see Kansas dumping a bag
Dude,
for theirs.
$300 million.
That's insane.
Kansas dropping $300 million on their football facilities. It's impossible for that not to look great, right?
Oh yeah. I think the football.
Put it this way. Let's give some context. Georgia just redid their indoor facility for $80 million. 80. They're putting 300 into football.
I
That's
hope that
crazy.
The football program's probably saying like, finally, because
Yeah.
basketball is definitely getting all the love out there. Anything and everything that the Kansas Jayhawks want for basketball wise, that's what they're pumping their money into. But then Kansas has a relatively successful season on the football landscape for once, and they're like, man, finally we get some love around
Let's
here.
throw some bread.
I just hope they don't NFL like a SoFi stadium. I don't want that. I want like a cathedral like a Rose Bowl type stadium where it looks old school and something like that. Don't make it this modern spaceship of a stadium.
If you're going to make it a dome, make it like the Fargo Dome up in North Dakota, where it's like sound can't get out, and it's AstroTurf field, and it's just like an echo chamber.
Yeah, don't put little holes in your roof like a canopy like SoFi Stadium did. Don't do that.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do a dome, do a dome.
Yeah, SoFi Stadium, the only stadium that has a roof that leaks.
Pretty
Tough.
crazy.
It doesn't even have a roof, it has a canopy, you're right.
Yeah, it's like a canopy.
It's just a big tent. Mm-hmm. Pitching tents out there in LA.
It's a damn circus.
A $1 billion tent.
Hey, do we believe this Oregon State stuff? Highest preseason ranking since 2001. Are we buying Beaver?
It's got to be the DJU stuff, right? That's kind of what I was thinking. It's because of DJU going out there.
Yeah. I think it's DJ Uiagalelei. I think it's a 10-win season from a year ago. I think that's a lot of what it is. I think it's belief in the head coach out there who seems to have his shit together. I have a hard time believing in an Oregon State football team ever. I think it would be impactful research for the show had I looked up how many returning starters they have.
Yeah, probably so.
Well, I did a little research on their schedule. They don't play practically anybody other than they have Utah at home, they play Washington at home, then they close the season at Oregon. If you go 2-3 in those games, you don't even have to play in the Pac-12. We've seen teams backdoor before where you're a one-loss team and you sneak into the playoff. So it could be interesting. I'm not saying that I think they're a lock for it by any means, but I think they are a sleeper in the Pac-12.
And to go off of that, if you are going to win those games, it's going to require great quarterback play. So DJ Uiagalelei it's going to require him reverting back to that the Notre Dame game, where he looked polished, he looked like the next guy at Clemson. And so if you're going to go in and you're going to beat Utah, you're going to beat Washington, and then maybe you go in and beat Oregon, it's going to take DJU doing his thing and getting back to his old self.
I mean, if you think about it, this time last year, if you just said, hey, TCU's going to be 12-0 at the end of the season, they're going to get into the playoff, you'd have gotten laughed at. So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm locking Oregon State to do it, but it's kind of sneaky. They were 10-3 last year.
There's just so much wrong with DJ Uiagalelei, or at least there was at Clemson. There was, even like, we do a lot of mechanical breakdowns here. We look at a lot of mechanical stuff, but I'm not claiming to be a perfect breakdown guy when it comes to quarterback mechanics. We just know the glaring issues. There's a lot of glaring issues with DJ Uiagalelei, a lot of inconsistencies in how he goes about throwing the football down in and down out. So that's an issue. I think a lot of the preseason hype has to do with last year's success. But you're right, the schedule's pretty dog water.
Yeah, they don't have to play USC. They don't have to do any of the other stuff. So
just Utah and Oregon. It's not bad at all.
And Washington.
No UCLA on the schedule.
Nope.
None of that. So not bad there. UCLA top 25 program this year, I think.
They might play
towards the end of the year.
They might actually play UCLA, but
I think that's a top 25 program towards the end of the year. Once Dante Moore kind of gets things figured out. Did y'all see the social media rumor? I know we're just riffing here. Did y'all see the social media rumors about Dante? That he wasn't happy with basically the money that was promised to him isn't coming in at UCLA.
Yeah, you're going to see
interesting
you're
stuff,
gonna see a lot more of that probably.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that, I would imagine, moving
Welcome
forward.
to the modern age
I think
college
you're already.
football.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think you're already seeing it right now in college football. We just haven't really talked about it all that much. Hey, I want to hit on this before we get going because you've worked your ass off on providing this stat, so we're going to hit it today. Will Rogers, by all accounts, is going to shatter Aaron Murray's career passing records in the SEC and become the all-time passing leader this season. So shouts out to Will Rogers. Matter of fact, I think we should give him 3. What do you got for me, Jay Will?
So, but he is without a doubt going to not necessarily obliterate Aaron Murray's record, but he is going to surpass him, bearing any injuries. So the question I'm proposing is anyone going to do it after him? Because you really don't see college football quarterbacks stay not only within the same conference for 4 years, which is basically what it requires for you to get to this record, but also just, they aren't given an opportunity to start day one, what it also requires for you to get to this record. So here's some stats. So Aaron Murray played 52 games throughout his college career, which means he averaged 253 passing yards per game to set that record. Thus far in his career, Rodgers has played 35 games and is averaging 305 per game. If he plays 13 games this season for Mississippi State, he would need to average about 191 passing yards per game to surpass Aaron Murray's record. That would also mean he played a total of 48 career games at the college level. So I wanted to know, who was the last SEC quarterback to really do that, play that many games?
Jake Fromm.
I didn't think about Jake Fromm, but this is the guy. So the guy I found, do you want to guess?
Like since when?
Like in recent
Who's
memory.
the most recent to do it? It's not a Bama quarterback.
No.
I don't know why this name popped in my head, but Chad
No.
Kelly.
I know who it is. It's number 11 from Texas A&M.
Oh, Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond.
Well, the name that I came up with to give some perspective was Drew Lock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Drew Lock. He
yeah,
graduated in
yeah,
2018.
He
finished
was
with
a freshman starter.
50 total games, and he was about a little under 1,000 yards shy, actually, from beating Murray's record. He just didn't put up enough numbers. So that's kind of the perspective. Like, 2018 is really like the last guy to really challenge this record and put up the necessary number of games played to do so.
And it's held since 2014.
Yeah.
That's a long time in the SEC, particularly when the game has moved more toward
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Like you would think it would be an easy one to break, but it's not.
Yeah, so I think once Will Rogers breaks the record, I'm not sure you hear much about anybody challenging it unless you get a guy that comes in freshman year, plays his first year every single game until 4 more years later.
And doesn't enter the draft as a junior.
Yeah, and somehow sticks around.
It's almost like you can't be too good to break this record, because if you're that good,
Yeah.
you're gone in 3 years and you're not touching it.
Yeah, you got to kind of be like an A- quarterback.
Yeah.
And you got to be physically limited too, because even if you're an A- like statistical quarterback, if you're 6'4" and you're an athlete, they're going to want you to come out anyways because they want to draft you.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. Been a great show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow, baby.